to this video I ran across this morning on my city. I already watched part of it.
I associate Jacksonville with tragedy. Many of us have lost friends and family due to gun violence. As a generation, we have become desensitized of the never-ending cycle of attending a funeral. Behind the funerals, the rest in peace shirts, and news articles, families are left with pain. It's time to hear their stories, elevate their voices, and provide solutions. This is the Gunshine State of Jacksonville, Florida.
And why we think putting our people on a rest in peace shirt is better than having them here next to us enjoying the milestones in life. How I don't know.
Funny. That was his personality. Always smiling up.
This kid right here was killed on graduation night. A promising football player killed leaving a graduation party. And nobody has answered for his murder yet. Nobody even been arrested for his murder yet.
Always laughing, always joking. That was Rashad. Rashad never had a dull moment. He loved the kids. He cared for the kids. He was a lovable, big giant. That was Rashad. He had a lot of ambitions in him. He had a lot of growing in him. All the kids looked up to Dookie, is his name, to the kids in the family. Everybody, he was the greatest dancer, laughed, jokester. He was the big, giant kid of my family. And I never seen him sad. He was a sunshine.
I'm just curious on why we take out the ones who are doing good, not living that thug life, really doing good in school. Why we can't leave them alone? Why do they gotta be forced into this bullshit?
And that's the way he is to me. He's my sunshine. He would give you the clothes off his back. He would feed you. He would do anything he could do to make you happy. That one was Rashad. My son, Rashad Fields, loved everybody. Rashad Fields worked hard to get where he was at, and life was snatched at the age of 18. Rashad had a 4-year scholarship.
4 years.
A full scholarship.
Free ride.
To play football, and one day he said he wanted to be in the NFL.
Reggie was like, he actually was a caring father. Like, what we wanted to do was we didn't have the father type roles in us. So when we have children, like, we want to be there as much as we can. Like, give everything you got to them. Because we know what we didn't have. So it was like that was the main goal. So when he being a father, like, he took it serious. Like, it's like this is.
Man, whoever did this, I'm not sure who this woman is, but I'm glad she did this. This is a good little video about the bullshit that be happening here.
Important. It ain't nothing else more important. Like all that. Honestly, like on his last day, he was with his child. That's how serious it is. As a father, he was one of the best. And that's why it's so sad because his children won't know how much of a good person he was. That's kind of heartbreaking at times. Even sometimes to talk about. Okay, Reginald was my best friend, and Reginald was just a monster with rapping. So he just like rapping was his thing. Like anytime he could, he'd rap or box, one of the two. You either fighting or rapping. So that's one of the things.
I don't remember that story or who that is, but the young man could rap and box. That's probably why they killed him. Because he was probably going around the neighborhood boxing up all these so-called street dudes' heads. And they got in their ego and in their feelings because he done whooped up on one or two of them.
It was murdered March 19, 2020. Real silly girl. Loved to laugh. I miss that the most. How we would reflect on the day and lay back and just crack up from the gut.
This shit don't bother you, man.
I would do her hair every morning before
heartless
school.
motherfucker to see these.
Yeah, she's never had a refund, but she had plenty of tardy slips.
They
God gave her this essence, and I just wanted to just help it grow. And I wanted you to live big and be fearless. She wanted to study pharmacy. So, you start out wanting one thing, and then as you go through the journey, it changes. But whatever it was, I knew it was going to be something we all, like my family and everybody, was going to be proud of. She was popular, I think, through Instagram with her fashions and hairdos. So she was well known and people would know her. And she out.
If you notice a trend in this video, every one of these victims has something positive going on in their life, whether a free ride scholarship or this woman right here being a successful hairdresser. They all got something positive going on, and you bum motherfuckers that be in these neighborhoods who ain't got a goddamn thing going on, taking these people out because of jealousy.
He took the time to greet people, a sweet-spirited person. Now, she can pop back at you, but her personality is really what I admire and adore about Nandi. I miss Nandi so much, Lord Jesus. She was just more than a daughter to me. We were friends. She shared a lot with me. I would want things by her. I probably told her too much as a child, but she was that person for me. Her favorite thing was shopping. So she got in with this company, and of course, the better you are, you're in the front, and the more, inexperienced dancers in the back. She was on the back row, but she stayed with the company. She wanted to give up many times, but I wouldn't let her. And before she stopped dancing, she was leading the group. Yeah, I'm proud of that. I think I want people to know that Nandi just wanted to love everybody. She wanted to spread love. Didn't get mixed up in a lot of negative.
Us three that you see sitting up here, Rashad was the most happiest person that you ever wanted to see. The biggest smile on his face that you ever wanted to see. May 23rd, 2022, when Rashad marched.
The anniversary of this man's death was just 3 days ago. And they still don't know who did it. No answers.
Across that stage, he was happy. He took his diploma in the hood to show everybody that he did it, that he made it.
Yeah, to probably try to inspire
He wanted
somebody
them to
else.
know, if I could do
Look
it, you
what
could
y'all
do it.
did.
For him to get gunned down 3 hours after graduation, it's heartbreaking. That was the last day we seen our baby. Graduated and walked across the aisle 7 o'clock, 10 o'clock, we get a phone call saying Rashad was shot. That gracious walk with that big smile. And to see him, we all three was together, how elated he was. He was so
All you so-called killers in the hood, man, this is what your family is gonna be going through when your time comes because of the dumb shit you doing. This is gonna be your mama, grandma, uncle, daddy, cousins, nieces, nephews, kids. This is exactly how they're gonna be talking about you. You know, smart and fuck up.
I'm happy for that moment. And we all went to eat. Then I get a call from my brother, like she said. So quick. Didn't even get to take clothes off. For someone to just take his life. That's hard.
I was at work
Sorry about the wind.
when I
It's
found out, and
windy
they
as
said he
hell
was just
here
he
right
just
now.
got shot. I'm thinking like, he'll make it through. He'll make it through. You can push through. You can push through harder things than this. And then you get there, and like everybody knows, but nobody want to tell you. And it's like this happening again. No matter how much you fight to try to change it, this is something that's just you couldn't stop. Like I feel like I'm his protector, so I couldn't protect him from this. I'm trying to be strong at work, but all coming through my mind is he really gone? Like he's gone for real. This is no play. Like everything you're gonna do, his children and everything, they never gonna see him again. You know what I'm saying? So
Of course, like, I was getting threats about, like, something was gonna happen because I was supposed to testify on the boy who killed my.
Yeah, y'all make sure y'all listen to this one good. She was a witness, or gonna be a witness, in what they did to her.
Brother. So I didn't take it serious because, like, I'm a girl. I ain't thinking somebody finna come shoot me. I was outside for like 5 or 10 minutes, and somebody came like in front of the car and just started shooting. I had to look down and seen that I had got shot in my stomach, like right here. So that's when I was like, I'm getting shot at. So I had to get up, go to the back seat, got stuck in the middle of the back seat, like in the middle trying to go to the back seat, and that's how I got shot that many times because I just had to sit there and take them. Like, I guess I woke up from surgery. I was in hospital for like 2 weeks. I couldn't eat for 2 weeks. Couldn't really do nothing on my own. They were targeting her friend. But her friend walked away. And they were in her car. And this was a first date. Not Inandi's first date, but Inandi's first date with him. My phone was just ringing off the hook when I got the call because I'm told it was on Instagram. Somebody had.
Now, how would you feel as a parent finding out about this shit on social media? And real quick, while I went ahead and pause it, I don't want nobody to forget, I think it was Christmas of 2019, a well-known YouTuber from Jacksonville, his son, house was broken into like a couple days before Christmas. They all went in there, killed the daddy, killed the mama, left the infant baby alive, set the house on fire, and the infant baby ended up dying from smoke inhalation. And you know what? They ain't found the motherfucker who did that yet either. I don't know what the fuck JSO got going on. You murder somebody down here, you're more than likely gonna get away with it, or your charges gonna get reduced to manslaughter, just like this little punk ass kid shit who murdered somebody at a damn high school football game. First degree murder charges dropped to manslaughter. He got 5 years. Been sitting in there 3.5 years already. The little motherfucker finna get out. How you think that family feels?
The scene. I never saw that. Don't want to see that. I pulled over at a BP and I called 911. This is what my mind told me to do. And I gave them Nandi's name and the type of car. And I said, can you tell me if something has happened in this city with, to her? And the lady was really nasty. Can't tell you that. She put me on hold and she said, an officer called you back.
That's how them asshole police are here. They think they're better than the citizens.
So
and they don't
I
even
knew
do their fucking
had
job.
been shot. And I was just praying, Lord, not dead, shot. I don't know where. She just hung up the phone. An officer called you. Nobody never called me. Nandi? Who killed Nandi? She's not even that type of girl. She's not into anything. Like,
I got much respect for these
no type
parents
of
holding it together in these interviews.
corruption,
I don't
Come
know how
on, Nandi?
or if I could do that.
I just could not believe it. And still to this day, I know she's gone. But I just cannot believe this has happened to Nandi. It shouldn't happen to nobody's child. She wasn't out late. She left 4 o'clock. Around 4 o'clock. They were going to go to Dave and Buster's. And she said that they were only going to let 50 people in because of the pandemic. So she was rushing. How's my makeup? Is my brows too bold? I said, no, it's fine. And I left the house before she did.
Justice is an answer, but it's not a healer right now. And it has really ripped my family apart. And I want everybody to know that it's really destroying my family right now. Even the children don't
Look at
sleep.
the pain
Everybody's
y'all
breathing
causing.
every day, every freaking day.
Trying to be the man.
I just be here for him because it's so important that they took my brother and my sister-in-law's son and they worked so hard to get him out of Jacksonville. Nobody wants their child in Jacksonville.
Nope.
It's a crime city.
Yep.
Nobody cares about gun laws. Trying to make it throughout the day is hard for me. I cry a lot. I'm angry. I'm sorry. And
You ain't got no
I'm
reason to be
mentally
sorry, mama.
exhausted. I'm paranoid. I'm afraid to go out the door.
As men in the community, man, how do you feel when a fucking woman tells you she's scared to go outside? Y'all men in that community ain't doing your fucking job of protecting them people from these little punk motherfuckers.
My anxieties, I have anxieties now. It's hard for us. It's hard, But, I have to walk out on faith.
Really, I'm still like grieving, so it's like I go through it every day. Like it's no time limit on healing. So really, it was just like counseling. That was like the only service they offered us. No financial services, no nothing like that, just like counseling. The healing process after, it wasn't as bad, but it was still like I said, I had to get back to myself. So it was just, that's just what it was. I had a lot of support. My family was very supportive. I had friends that were supportive, you know, but it was still hard. Like, you know, it was something within. So I had to get through it on my own. Like I said, if I ain't thinking about it, I'm good. But when I'm alone, that's when I like think about it the most and cry. But it's okay to cry, so you can get it out. Well, I'm not mad at nobody. I don't hold grudges. But vengeance is mine, said the Lord. So whatever is karma do to all, that's all. It's rough. It's rough. And it's never ending. This month will be 3 years. And I get a lot of people asking me, how do you do it? What do you mean? You're so strong. But I'm so not. It's just what you see on the outside. This pain never stops. It never ends. When people tell you she's in a better place, it was her time.
It's not what they
I
want to
can't
hear.
accept that.
I couldn't accept
It
that
may
either.
be ignorant on my part, but she was murdered. Tragically murdered.
Senselessly murdered.
Ain't no God in that.
Nah.
I put
God
on
ain't in
face,
Look here.
and I get up.
God ain't been in Jacksonville in a long time. And that's the problem. These leaders here ain't said nothing about all this violence. The outgoing mayor or the incoming mayor. They don't talk about this violence. They don't talk about the pedophile teachers that's been getting arrested and their crimes being covered up from fucking with little kids in schools and shit. God ain't here no more. Not in Jacksonville.
Because I refuse to just fall into a depression or be grief-stricken. I press through. I want to open a foundation in Inandi's name. I want her legacy to be love. I want to pour into young
That's the
people.
bitch ass man right there that don't do shit.
Girls and boys.
That's on his way
to help
out.
them reach their potential. Right now, that's what I hope for. I experienced gun violence twice living in Jacksonville. The barriers I had of dealing with gun violence was like just my mental. I had to get back to myself. You know, I got scars. Like I had to look at those every day. So it was like I was reminded every day of like what happened to me.
With gun violence, I really think that we need to really get more into having the people that kids are looking up to. To me, the role models is like the number one thing that
bullshit
really,
ass drill rappers.
That's where we can
That's
get in
all
and
they
change
rap
things.
about.
And I don't think we really understand
Murder.
A lot of the older
rap
people,
about
like you'll hear the
nothing
young
else
boys
because
say
they
the
ain't
OG.
skilled like
And
that.
the OG is somebody who really was doing everything that they're doing now, but they did it way back. But the OG is in a different place now. The OG is not doing those things anymore. Okay, well, OG, we need you to come and talk to the youth. OG, we need for when the youth come to you with a situation where they beefing with somebody or they homeboy done got killed and they come to you and they want some advice, we need for that advice to be the good advice. Because now you're someone that they know you know about it because they seen you go through it. They're not really listening to their therapist or to mom or the police because they like, y'all don't, you know, you're not in my shoes. You can't empathize with this. So I feel that if we could really get our older people to really get involved. A lot of the older people, whether they're in trouble now or if they turned over a new leaf, like, let's get them more involved, because I believe that kids, they actually do whatever they see or whatever they feel like is like the thing to do. It all goes back to mental health as well. We have a lot of kids where the households were, they didn't come from a good household. They didn't come from someone dealing with something by talking it out. They came from a household where people, okay, we fighting about it, but we shooting about it. That's all they know, and those are the dynamics. So mental health kind of ties into it as well. It plays a huge part. Dealing with grief is something that there are so many things that we can do just sitting home that we don't realize. One thing that is something that I am so big on is journaling. I believe that the nonverbal communication is very, very, very effective, because a lot of times we don't like to talk about things, because when we actually say it, it kind of brings different things out, or the person who we're talking in front of, we don't feel comfortable talking to them, or we feel like we may be judged about some things. But dealing with grief, I believe that you're able to write things out, like, and before you know it, you've probably written about 5 or 6 pages, because you're just finally getting it out. You go to a place to where, like, try to bring up those happy memories that you have with that person who you have lost. And a lot of times those happy memories help you to, like, when you are grieving, let those happy memories come to mind. A lot of times when we think about the people that aren't here, we're always thinking about how their presence is not here. You know, think about some of the good times that we had with them. So if we can replace those thoughts of they're gone and they're never coming back with some of those.
And for anyone thinking therapy is bullshit, or for soft people or anything like that, let me tell you something. My youngest daughter started having a hard time dealing with her mama being on drugs and stuff like that. So we put her in therapy, and I'm gonna tell you what, that is probably one of the best things for a troubled kid, is to go talk to somebody who is not biased, who doesn't have an opinion, who's not going to make them feel any type of way because they live differently than the therapist or whatever. I highly recommend therapy for troubled kids. It does help.
Good memories, that's a good coping skill for you to practice at home. And also, like, join the group. They have groups for all type of groups. For, I know the mothers of the slain kids have a group. There are so many groups, and a lot of them are free. You just have to research those things, or you don't want to hear people say it'll be okay, because how will it be okay? How can you tell me that it'll be okay? And I'm living here and my child is gone. So if you're around more mothers that are dealing with their child being gone and she tells you it'll be okay, there's some truth to that. You believe it a little bit more. So I really think, like, getting into support groups, journaling, meditation, relaxation, all of those things help with grief.
EVAC movement came kind of organically, like, out of a need in the community. Some kids sometimes do have access to therapy, not a lot, but even when they do have access, what we find is that a lot of young people, especially a lot of young men, they're not open to therapy. It's too intimidating, it's too direct, it's too raw.
And he went to Washington, D.C. and met President Obama when he was president. That teacher right there is a good-ass teacher. She actually was fired from her school for, I think it was hanging a Black Lives Matter banner up in her classroom, to be honest with you. It's something real petty. And that's another problem here, is we get rid of these good teachers like this because of their personal opinions. I don't necessarily agree with her bringing it to school and all that, but goddamn, man, she was making a difference.
And so EVAC really started in our classroom. And it started with giving students a chance to build relationships with each other and slowly begin to kind of own their own stories, write their own stories, and when they're ready for it, to speak their own stories and share it with others in the class. And I think that that's one way we can really combat gun violence, particularly some of our most traumatized young people, is providing that safe space during the school day, a scheduled class where there's real relationships there and no one's forced to share, right? But like it's a space and people can know that they're not alone, and when they're ready on their own time, share their stories. And their stories were so powerful, they brought them all the way to the White House, to presenting at Harvard University, to giving a TED Talk, to really changing the world. So the thing about storytelling and when you empower youth during the school day to share their story is it changes everything, and it kind of takes out, when you make things like an after school program or go get therapy off campus, things like that, it kind of gatekeeps who has access, right? There's a variety of reasons why youth can't stay after school. They can't get the transportation. There's so many reasons. Gun violence affects every part of the student's mental health. It affects their education. It affects everything. How are you supposed to learn when you're coming to school traumatized? I remember when Nick was in 9th grade, and Reggie, some of our co-founders of our movement, and I remember Reggie coming to school one day literally shook up because he had literally had to walk past a dead body on his way to school. I mean, a lot of violence in our city starts with economics, so it starts with equity, it starts with paying people a fair wage, it starts with having transportation, allows people to work and thrive, investing equally in communities. It also starts with getting to the root of the issue, right? Like why things are happening the way they're happening in our city. When you have a homicide solve rate in Jacksonville of 33%, when murders aren't getting solved, people start to think
I think they got us the, whatever they call it, the rate of solving murders here, I don't even think it's at like 30%. They don't solve a motherfucking thing here.
To take things into their own hands, and that's not right, but it's real. Like we've got to work on that too. We need safe spaces where peers can get together and process things that they've been through and know they're not alone. You know how it is with loss. Everyone's there at the funeral, right? But then people go home and their lives go on, while other people's lives have just been blown up. And so what we do is we try to long-term stick it out with people, be there for them for their needs through the anniversaries, through the birthdays, and just the day-to-day, and find them services. JSO needs to have, or somebody needs to have some kind of division where it's a family advocate, because families find out information, right? They want their loved one's homicide solved. They want justice. And a lot of times they can't even get a call back. We need to invest in in-school programs like EVAC,
or get them
but not limited to EVAC, where youth have, at the place where they're at every single day, have space and people to go to as they're working through things. When Reggie was killed, his mom didn't take a single day off for 9 months. She couldn't afford to, and that blew my mind.
Not only could she probably not afford to, but it was probably the only thing keeping her sane during that time, keeping her mind off of the bullshit and keeping her mind off the job that the JSO ain't doing to solve her son's murder.
People who are grieving should be able to have time and space economically to do that.
I am not a gang member. Well, honestly, this is our protection on the street against GSO, because we get stereotyped. As you can see, I got gold and I got dreads. So first thing they're gonna do is stereotype me with whatever other stereotypes out there. So I'm a stereotype. I'm giving you a clear statement. I am not a gang member.
Gun violence in Jacksonville is at an all-time high.
I don't know how I feel about a Tiger King's lawyer being on this motherfucker. It almost seems like he is only being involved in certain shit for the clout.
We also, in this country, have a firearm for every man, woman, and child, which increases the problem. When there's as many guns as people, we have Pandora's box.
It's not the
wide
guns,
open.
man.
You know, we have over 1,000 murders over the last 7 years in Jacksonville alone, and almost a person being killed every day. We're not doing much to try to resolve that, right? So a lot of that is poverty.
Nothing's being done to solve it because there's nothing for these kids to do. They keep taking away all the parks and rec centers and shit like that and building hotels and bullshit ass things like that to bring in money. They ain't got nothing for these kids to do. So what do you expect them to do? There ain't nowhere they can go and hang out. A lot of the YMCA's and shit like that ain't here no more, so they got two choices. They either in the house or they out of the house. And if they in the house, they getting picked on and fucked with by other kids in the community when they go to school because they don't ever come outside. So they damned if they do and they damned if they don't. You think the leadership gives a fuck about it? No. We got a bunch of land, empty land downtown near the stadium. Instead of putting something there for the kids, they about to build a big ass hotel little area and shit like that. Nothing for the kids to do.
Related, and again, it comes back to, related to Jacksonville not having options on blue collar trades and make a living for your families, because we've got the widest gap we've ever had between the haves and the have-nots. Right now, there's not very many kind of options for people through a variety of problems that they have. Certainly there's very little economic opportunity in parts of Jacksonville. Those with mental health challenges, one of the most recent murders was a young man who killed both of his grandparents. So by killing your grandparents, that's not, generally speaking, an ordinary crime that somebody of a sound mind would do. That is a mental health issue. We spend half of our city budget on policing and over-policing, and very little going back to economic opportunity and community involvement and engagement, right? So, we're sending a message as a city that law and order is more important than economic development and systemic, addressing systemic issues. More specifically about Jacksonville, there's essentially, two sets of needs, right? You've got groups like Cure Violence that have been funded that don't really know our community. They try to engage some folks within our community, but they don't know.
Yeah,
they don't know.
That's another problem. Having outsiders come in here and trying to do shit and they don't know the dynamics of this city. Why the fuck are we letting outsiders come in here to try to set up some shit for our city? We as the citizens of this place should be fucking doing this. Shouldn't be waiting for some outsider to come in here and make a suggestion before we actually think about doing it.
Our community. Meanwhile, you've got groups like Mad Dads and Families of Slain Children and groups that are on the blocks, know the families, know who's doing what, and they aren't even taught or encouraged on how to get city funding. So they have none. Mad Dads has never gotten city funding, but has probably led to more arrests and helped more families than any other organization in this town. A second related issue is you do have groups such as the Victims Assistant Advisory Council, I think they call it the mayor's VAAC. And by its definition, victims assistance, right? Well, they limit it at $500 scholarship. So families apply and there's no help there, despite claims that this is the Victims Assistance Fund. And what the Victims Assistance Fund, does well is have an awards presentation where officers and certain people who cooperate well.
Yeah, awards and presentations for officers who ain't doing their motherfucking jobs. You know why there's no money left over to put into the program for these families? Is because it's lining the pockets of everybody who works for that fucking association. Quid pro quo.
Within the structure, receive
just like the
dinner
pedophile teachers
you know,
being covered up.
So
This
even
shit's
at
being
what we're
covered up,
claiming
and ain't nobody
to
speaking
do,
out about
we
it.
don't do well. And you know, there needs to be more funding, more city responsibility, more government responsibility, more policing responsibility in giving people victims advocates and helping them solve these crimes and deal with the post-traumatic stress that results from this. We've got to start by saving one life and then another, right? You know, engaging folks like Mad Dads, community groups, churches, and giving them greater resources to stand up to, you know, the select people that are doing it.
I hope that Jacksonville can just stop just talking about it. I'm sick of the panels. I'm sick of the events where everyone talks about what we know the problems are. I'm ready for people to actually take action. I'm ready for elected officials to be held accountable. I'm ready for us to actually invest in kids and in people.
I think that the city of Jacksonville, what they can do is put some funds into the community to where you're able to fund these kids to go to these after school programs, to where, okay, we want to take them on this field trip, okay, let rides be provided because kids don't have rides. Like, a lot of small things stop these children from being able to be interacted with things that could potentially detour them from being like another statistic.
The sheriffs, the mayor, and the governor. They need to, it's time for them to step up and do their job. But they cannot do it by themselves.
Nope.
It take a village. And what I mean by the village is going to take us. Us. We want somebody to step up. If you seen anything, or you seen when Rashad got shot, we need you all to step up. We need somebody to say something. We want justice. As long as the gun law are allowed to set these type of rules and regulations for your family, there is no end. So until people learn to vote, to have a voice.
I just want to say this. Y'all been paying attention to Pops right here, this whole video. You could tell Pops is just not there, man. You could tell that all he is thinking about is his son. You can see it written all over his face, the pain that y'all cause his family.
And to speak and demand actions, there is no action. I mean, you know, we losing our kids to gun violence, innocent kids. Kids that is not into nothing, kids that's not doing nothing. You know, kids that's got big dreams are dying gun violence.
You got a strong father.
Who gives you the
right
right
there
to pick
about
up a gun and shoot somebody?
It shouldn't be this easy to kill and get away with it, or to kill, period. If we could just make this world a better place, if we just love, that's so simple. It cancels hate.
It does.
The gun violence in Jacksonville is just horrible.
Ridiculous.
Before this even happened, I had stopped watching the news because it's too much. Every day somebody was being murdered.
Every day.
And I don't even know how we can get control, like what is happening. And it's not just Jacksonville, it's nationwide. These high-powered guns in the hands of just regular civilians, that has to stop. These murderers are bold because they know you're not going to say nothing. And trust me, I understand you being fearful, because I would be. But some kind of way, anonymously, if I have some information, I'm going to give it up. Because it's 90 today. could be yours tomorrow. I hope that these murderers are taken off the street for
Wrong
life.
is wrong and right is right, man. This no snitching shit is going way too far. That was a pretty good little insight into the shit that be going on here in Jacksonville. The only family that I wish they would have mentioned in this documentary too is the Holland family. 13-year-old Prince Holland was murdered senselessly on his way home from football practice, riding in the car with his coach and 2 other players, when somebody had decided to shoot the car up, and that wasn't good enough. They stopped and jumped on top of the car and emptied the rest of the clip into the front fucking window. And that 13-year-old boy is the only one that died. Everybody else was shot in the car too, but that 13-year-old was the only one that passed away. And that is some bullshit, man. We ain't gonna have no future because we keep killing them off. Or not we, but y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Get in them comments.